Good afternoon and welcome to Pittsburgh City Council's Cablecast public hearing for Wednesday, September 13th, 2023, relative to Bill 2023-1666. Will the clerk please read the title of the bill?
Bill 1666, resolution at no cost to the city approving a new institutional master plan under the Pittsburgh Code, Title IX zoning, Article 2, Chapter 905, Section 905.03.d, and Article 7, Chapter 922, Section 922.12.g for Allegheny General Hospital entitled Hospital Institutional Master Plan dated March 2023 on property zoned EMI, Educational Medical Institution District, 22nd Ward, Council District Number 1.
Thank you. And for the record, we are joined today by Councilperson Warwick. Thank you for coming. And as and if other members join, I will recognize their presence. So our first order of business will be an introduction to this bill in its entirety by City Planning, and we are joined by Kate Rakes. If you could please, well, actually we have some other invited guests I should mention that will present as well, and but we'll start with City Planning.
Thank you. My name is Kate Rakes, and I'm a principal planner in Zoning and Development Review. This is a resolution for a new institutional master plan for Allegheny General Hospital. The Planning Commission, at its meeting on June 13th, 2023, made a positive recommendation to City Council with the following condition. Applicants shall continue community meeting discussions regarding ongoing concerns around noise, construction management, building massing, etc., prior to review and approval of a project development plan under the institutional master plan. So this condition relates to the individual project approvals, the project development plans for future hospital expansion applications. So there's no additional action relating to the institutional master plan needed at this time. As per required by the zoning code, mailed and posted notice of this public hearing was made 21 days in advance.
Great. That's all on your end?
Yep.
All right, thank you for going over that. I wanted to just mention that we do have some invited guests here. It's the applicant. I think it brings good context to the conversation for the public as well. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. And I'd like to invite them up to make the presentation. Let the record show that we're joined by Councilperson Strasburger. Thanks for coming. And for our guests, could you please state your name? And I'd like to have all introductions, and then we'll move into the presentation.
Great. My name is Mark Nussbaum. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Allegheny General Hospital.
I'm Kat Wick. I'm a project architect with IKM and lead of the master planning effort.
And I'm Cindy Jampol, the principal and CEO of Trans Associates Engineering Consultants. We are the traffic and parking consultants.
All right, thanks for coming today, and then we'll sit back and listen to what you're going to present. Thanks.
All right. So thank you very much for the time today to present the institutional master plan for Allegheny General Hospital. This afternoon, we're requesting approval for the AGH institutional master plan. Most recently, we received IMP approval in 2018, which really led to the construction of our new cancer center. And really, this IMP builds upon a number of goals that we've identified in previous plans, but also ongoing planning throughout the campus at AGH and various communications with the communities that surround AGH. If you go to the next slide. Obviously at AGH, the opportunity to serve the community is paramount in all the work we do. This slide really includes some of our ongoing program partnerships, annual special community events, and community sponsorships. One of the things to highlight is our community health needs assessment, which we do and refresh every 3 years. But it's really an opportunity to define what the community needs are from a health needs standpoint, as well as really lead our strategic planning associated with how to address those needs and make sure that the hospital is in a position to continue to grow and support the communities that we serve. One of the other things that is identified here is really a number of our health programs that we're offering. Specifically calling out is the mobile health clinics that we rotate throughout the Northside neighborhood, but also the city of Pittsburgh as it relates to health screenings, vaccines, and really kind of tying back to the needs of improving the health of the community. One of the last things to highlight on this slide, and really tying to the impact of the community, is the work around workforce development. We've partnered with a number of groups in the community to really drive that, from Pittsburgh Public Schools to the Summer Learn and Earn program to Northside Works, and in a great collaboration with the Northside Chamber of Commerce to continue to build the pipeline of workforce, not just at the hospital, but overall in the community. If you go to the next slide, this slide really identifies what our objectives are throughout the institutional master plan. As I referenced before, we're constantly going through a strategic planning process of defining what the needs of Allegheny General Hospital are, and that we need to make sure that we're advancing care. Kind of highlighting here is really we have 4 primary objectives. Is one, to transition to fully private patient rooms in the facility. Obviously, coming out of COVID, we identified that this was a large gap, and clearly the need to move towards a fully private room care delivery model is key. The second one is really optimizing service lines. Obviously, this is a fairly aged campus where we have disparate clinics kind of scattered throughout. So really, how do we consolidate and co-locate services? This will improve wayfinding, patient experience, and the team-based care that we're constantly trying to deliver. Thirdly is really modernizing the facility in total. Obviously, with technology changing as it relates to equipment, size of teams, space standards, we need to make sure that we're positioned to continue to keep up with the technology and the care that is expected in the communities and where healthcare is going. And lastly, which I think we've spent a great deal of time, is to continue to engage the community, making sure that we're meeting their needs from a clinical perspective, but also that the facility continues to support the needs of the community. If you go to the next slide, would just like to highlight, while AGH is not in an RCO territory, we have spent a great deal of time working with the community, sharing our plans. And this slide really illustrates the various meetings that we've had to make sure that we were engaging them on their ideas, thoughts, improvement, but also sharing kind of where we are going from a planning standpoint. Clearly, one of our primary avenues of communication is through the Northside Leadership Conference, but that also spurs out to various local community organizations and some of the committees that we also have baked in the hospital just to continue to engage the communities that we serve. If you go to the next slide, I would just like to highlight briefly is through these various meetings, we heard a lot from the community, and just to highlight some of the things that we did and our response. And I think these are not a one-time response and done. These are ongoing conversations and communication that we'll have. But just to highlight a few, is there were obviously concerns related to the expansion of AGH and bleeding into the Northside community further than we are currently. And we obviously heard this, and our intention is not to change the boundaries of the EMI district and stay within our existing footprint, which Kat will review shortly. There were concerns related to the helipad. This has been and will continue to be a focus of this IMP, both in addressing current concerns on the current location and the noise associated with that, but also associated with if and when we were to move it, making sure that we take into account the impact to those surrounding communities that may be impacted. Concerns related to the height of future projects. All the proposed developments will not exceed the height of the South Tower, and we aren't seeking any variances to this requirement at this time. Obviously, concerns related to employee parking, visitor parking, and overall traffic. Cindy will touch on this slightly, but we do utilize off-campus parking. Our intention is not to change that practice. We have a shuttle service for many of our employees on a day-to-day basis to reduce the traffic and make sure that we're not impacting congestion in the area, and our intention is to keep that going. The last one is really our continued focus on on communication with the community. As we continue any plans associated with the expansion of our campus, is to continue to leverage and provide input and feedback to the communities that we serve. And our primary avenue, again, will probably most likely be the Northside Leadership Conference, but have continued to build and keep strong lines of communication open with the various communities, specifically the ones that directly surround Allegheny General Hospital. If you go to the next slide, I think this is where I am now turning over to Kat from IKM, who will speak on the existing conditions in the campus and the IMP.
Thank you, Mark. So AGH is an urban campus that's located in the central North Side neighborhood, just to kind of level set everybody on the location. And the campus is directly adjacent to a variety of neighborhoods, the Fineview neighborhood to the north, East Allegheny to the east, and Allegheny Center to the south. The campus itself is in an EMI, or an Educational Medical Institution District. The AGH campus is the two large red blocks in the middle, and the light blue surrounding it is the extent of the EMI district. The red dashed boundary identifies the area of the IMP that the IMP directly affects, and it's also the same as the EMI district. The black dashed line that's wider, that's the 1,000-foot boundary around the EMI district, and that constitutes the entire study area of the IMP. So as part of this process, we looked at impacts of the community surrounding the campus. And if you go to the next slide, the photographs here show images of the buildings that are on the campus to show some context. There are 11 buildings that are on the campus. As you can see, it's a fairly dense urban site, and there are a variety of medical buildings as well as some parking garages. And if you go to the next slide, the IMP process, as identified in the city zoning code, requires that we identify 10-year development sites and potential 25-year development sites. And so the 10-year development sites are in that bluish teal color, and the 25-year development sites are in the green color. And if you go to the next slide, we'll take a deeper dive into the 10-year development sites. So the colored masses that you see on the screen are the 10-year development sites in a little bit more detail. These blocks represent the maximum allowable area that the code will permit us to do without seeking a variance. So none of these are designed buildings. These are all just the greatest allowable envelope that a project would be permitted to fill. And should AGH decide to pursue new construction on any of these identified sites, there would be another community engagement process. We'd have to go in front of city planning again, and there would be a whole reviews process, an opportunity for the public to comment on any of those individual buildings, should they be pursued. And if you go to the next slide, this slide identifies the investigation that we did into both the materials and the context of the neighborhood for the urban design guidelines. So some of the images you see are from the campus that identify the materials present on campus, so brick, metal panel, glass, etc. And then on the right, there are some images of the context in terms of landmarks such as the church, the fountain, public arts. So making sure that we have a full understanding of what the community context is when doing any planning going forward. And if you go to the next slide, this is a snapshot of the environmental and sustainability goals that we identified through the master planning process. So we took a look at the City of Pittsburgh goals, the Allegheny General Hospital goals, and looked at how they aligned or brought them into alignment as part of this process, depending upon the goals. And the AGH campus is a signatory to the AIA 2030 district, and so they work with the Green Building Alliance on setting goals and tracking progress in terms of energy performance, carbon emissions, and water use. And now I'm going to hand it over to Cindy Jampol to discuss traffic and parking.
Okay, this will be a brief summary of the transportation study that was performed as directed by DOMI. This first slide shows On the left, the existing parking capacity on the campus and assignment by employees versus patients and visitors, and also includes reference to the off-site parking previously referenced. In the future, the parking situation on campus looks about the same, with the potential removal of the Hemlock lot if a building project should be advanced on that location. There will be continued use of the off-site parking with shuttle service for employees only. Patients and visitors will be parked as immediately proximate to their destinations on the campus as possible. Next slide, please. This busy little slide shows the intersections and driveways that we studied to look at capacity, delays, and optimal function all around the campus. And the outcome of this was to develop a program of optimized traffic signal timings and to verify where stop signs and such would be needed or continue to be in place with the project. The other part of the mobility plan is enhancement of the already existing transportation demand management plan for the campus, and identification of some additional methods to decrease the number of single occupant vehicles and increase the knowledge of and ability to use alternative modes to come to the campus. And that over time, there will be updates given to DOMI to enhance that process and adjust it as necessary. I believe that is our last slide of the presentation.
Sorry, bear with me. We got new mics, and every time I hit the mute button, it's just a couple seconds slower than what I'm used to. But I love it. Thank you, IMP. So just want to make sure everyone can hear me on the microphone, because I wanted to mention that you have a slide deck that you just presented, and just spoke with the clerk. We're going to make sure that that's attached to the bill, so that everyone can see that, because I've seen it, but obviously for people in person right here, it's definitely too small. But that's just the nature of trying to put a lot of information on some slides. Correct. And I want to give just some context, because in terms of the slides, but also the nature of this type of meeting. It's a public hearing, so although I have lots of questions I'd like to ask you in public right here, it's not the time to do it. We're going to hear from the public on what they think of the project. So with that, I want to now move to public testimony from the registered speakers. And this is for the registered speakers. I just want to set the rules of what's going to take place here. So please give your name and address for the public record. Really, I think the name and neighborhood is sufficient, right? I don't think giving your individual address would be, it's a bit specific, but I am reading off a cheat sheet, so just bear with me. And after this list of speakers, we will have speakers that didn't register in advance. So unlike the speakers that have registered, they will get 3 minutes, and everyone else who didn't register will get 1 minute to address council. So actually, you know what? We don't have that many people in person, so we'll allow them 3 minutes as well. I think that's appropriate. So regardless, all speakers will get 3 minutes, and our first speaker is Joan Kimmel. Joan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Joan. You can begin. Okay.
My name is Joan Kimmel. I've lived in Central Northside for almost 50 years, the last 6 years at 1204 Lorraine Street, 1 block from Allegheny General Hospital's current heliport. When the helicopter first appeared here, it did so with little to no communication with the neighborhood. The heliport was placed at ground level at the very edge of the hospital's campus. At that time, the adjacent neighborhood, which is where I now live, was very depressed with many deteriorating and abandoned properties. However, after recent upgrading developments around other parts of Central Northside and along Federal Street, people have begun to move in and renovate more and more of this section of the neighborhood. However, currently, we all lack one amenity of city living, and that's being able to fully enjoy an outside life in warmer weather. The unbelievably almost debilitating noise of the helicopter, which is only one story above ground level with no sound baffles to deaden it, and the smell of burning fuel oil, which has to be causing damage to respiratory systems, drive us indoors every time. We endure not just the time while the helicopter sits revving its motors, but again, because it's near ground level, we have to wait until it has risen 50 or so feet above the canopy of trees before it can take off and our ears can rest. It was only last year that I discovered that the Snyder Pavilion, the tall aluminum or steel-clad building, was built to specifically house the helicopter on its roof. It has an already built elevator shaft going directly to or near to the emergency rooms. I heartily support moving the heliport to that originally planned placement. Being already above the canopy of trees, it can rise and quickly take off. But I have two suggestions, the first of which I hope members of City Council will insist on, and that is that they include putting sound baffles that absorb and or direct the noise away from residential areas. And second, as it is the least costly, requiring the least amount of planning approvals, etc., of all the portions of the master plan, I hope the hospital will be directed to begin the heliport move to the Snyder Pavilion as soon as the master plan has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. And I just want to mention for our next speakers, if for some reason you're cut off, that's because you're over the 3 minutes. It didn't happen for you, Joan, but I just want to mention because sometimes it happens and speakers are then concerned that their comments won't be heard. And so you can email comments to our clerk. If you could mention the address.
Sure, it's City Clerk's Office at pittsburghpa.gov.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Rebecca White. Rebecca?
Hello.
Hi, Rebecca. You can begin.
Thank you. This is Rebecca White. I live on James Street in the corner of Dunlow Avenue. My husband and I invested in our property 13 years ago. We were the original family that moved into this row of townhomes. And I can tell you for the last 13 years, I've thoroughly enjoyed living in my neighborhood. However, we have had multiple projects since I moved in at the hospital, including parking garage repairs, the new entrance in the back, the cancer center that's recently being renovated. I don't even know if it was the HVAC, but something that went way up to the top of the building. That was just years and years and years since we've been here. There's always something going on. Obviously, it's disruptive. So I guess I'm just thinking, out loud, but are there going to be any sort of performance guarantees for our neighborhood, and especially for the people that are located in this particular area, regarding the noise reduction, making sure that when people come to do the job, they don't get here before 7 a.m., they aren't idling outside of our windows, the trash is completely picked up? Are you measuring how many additional people will be taking part in the reduction of carpooling or bicycling? What is being done so that the neighborhood can really understand what you're doing to ensure that we won't be disrupted as much as possible? Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Our next speaker is Pastor Ken Turnbull. Hi, Ken.
My name is Pastor Ken Turnbull. I'm with Allegheny Center Alliance Church. I've had the privilege of actually growing up there. My dad put me in the front pew in 1972 and said, pay attention. And I've been on staff now for 40 years and still learning. I want to speak to the community connection that's been going on. And I can honestly say it is the best it has ever been with Allegheny General Hospital. 40 years ago, I couldn't have stood up and said that. It was a very different world. 30 years ago, with the bankruptcy and all that, it was a total mess. But I can assure you the last 20 years, it has gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's been a really amazing blessing for our church to be directly across the street from the hospital as another institution, and to see how we're additively working together and talking through these different topics that come up. And it's a much more collaborative environment than I've ever seen. And so it gives me great confidence that the master plan is in front of you. And again, it's more just colored pictures that are an opportunity for us to dream into and think about how to make the North Side a stronger and better community. And so I just speak in favor of it because I see the level of collaboration so much higher and the level of trust so much higher. And I just want to express my appreciation to the Health Network for the work they've done to rebuild trust in our community.
Thank you, Ken. Our next speaker is Douglas Camper. Doug, are you there?
I am, Councilman. Thank you.
Hi, Doug. You can begin.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Doug Camper. I live on Sussman Street in the neighborhood of East Allegheny, or Deutschtown. I'm currently the president for the East Allegheny Community Council, which is the neighborhood group organization that is immediately adjacent or southeast of the campus for AGH. Just on behalf of the East Allegheny Community Council, which represents the East Allegheny neighborhood, which is the closest RCO, or one of the few RCOs that is adjacent to the campus. AGH has been very cooperative and collaborative throughout this whole institutional master plan process. They have been responsive. I'm very sympathetic to everybody who has concerns about the helicopter noise construction and all the other, concerns or challenges that are brought up. I know working together with AGH moving forward, I think there's ways that we can find solutions to some of these things. And all in all, I think they've been very responsive to what we as a community have brought forward. And the condition that city planning passed along with their approval still holds true for us from a neighborhood perspective, that we would still like to have that further engagement as we go through the process. But from our neighborhood community group perspective, we're in support of the institutional master plan and a continued and collaborative process moving forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Doug. And next speaker is Gina Grome, but I'm not seeing Gina online. So we will check back after our next speaker, or after all speakers are done speaking, to, possibly Gina will join. Next speaker is David Cerrone. David, are you online or in person? David? You take yourself off mute. What's the option for mute if they're on
Hi, sorry about that.
Oh, good. You're good. You can begin.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is David Cerrone. I am a homeowner on Porterfield Street, and Joan my neighbor pointed out all the bad things that happened to her with the heliport, including, very loud noise from the helicopter, exhaust fumes, all the fuel that is burned when they're taking off and landing. Everybody's aware of that. Now, the problem is going away from Joan, and it's getting moved to me. And as you can see in the IMP map, Porterfield Street is a baseball throw away from the hospital. And the relocation of that helipad is going to put undue burden on the residents of my street. And I would oppose the movement of that helipad based on moving the problem from one part of the campus to another part, even though it's temporary. I would expect that this construction project is probably going to be over a year based on the size of what's put in the IKM report. Matter of fact, I bought the home because you can't hear the heliport very well from where my house was located. And now that's going to get totally put into a 180, and it's going to be a major burden, as Joan described in her comments. And I really want the hospital to maybe consider just buying out the residential parcels, you know, between Sandusky Street and Porterfield, and, you know, move us to another part of the neighborhood where we don't have to deal with the helicopter noise. I just don't want to deal with it during this construction phase, and whatever temporary movement it is, how it's described in the IKM report. It's not defined in the IKM report. So that's what I would like to put out there for the council, that the hospital should consider just making offers to neighbors for the properties that are going to be highly impacted by the increased noise burden, the increased air pollution burden, all the workers that are going to be moving into our neighborhood during the upcoming construction. And that's pretty much all that I have to say. I appreciate everybody's time and giving me this opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And we're going to move to anyone that showed up in person to give public comment. You have 3 minutes, and we'll just self-regulate this. So whoever would like to come up first, please do so now. State your name and neighborhood for the record. And you can just begin speaking whenever you're ready, because the timer will start then.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to come before council here this afternoon. I do have 3 different letters, but I can do one and then submit the other 2 to record. However you want to handle that is up to you. You can let me know. First, I'm going to read the letter on behalf of Manchester residents. My name is LaShawn Burton Falk, and I am the Executive Director of the Manchester Citizens Corporation, otherwise known as MCC. I am here today as a servant of the community to witness, support, and convey support on behalf of MCC's constituent base for the AGH Master Plan. If there were a singular thought that the community might like to leave behind for those attending today, is that healthcare is changing. Yes, people get hurt and get sick. Things can be acute, or folks could have been living with their issues with or without knowing. Community-based hospitals are important. They provide a safe space. AGH does this with excellence. What I hear residents say that they like about AGH is that they are looking for ways to be innovative, meeting residents where they are, finding ways to reduce healthcare costs, while providing excellent doctors and medical staff. I hear residents comment on partnerships with entities like Project Destiny, Thrive 18, that are supported and partnered with AGH, and that folks find that the most vulnerable or at-risk residents that need assistance are very well taken care of. AGH is a friend, a partner, a thought thinker, and mindful of the immediate neighbors and the region that they serve. Master planning is valuable. It allows the institutions and those served to understand the plan and the process towards the future. AGH has met the community on and off their campus to discuss the plan. AGH has made changes based on the comment of community and input. A leave behind for council here today is that AGH doesn't interact with the community when a master plan is up for review. AGH is consistently meeting and engaging with the community via boots on the ground daily. If community residents have issues, they have the ability to get ahead of those issues as a result of the relationship building that they sow in the community every day. On behalf of the residents that I serve, I am here to offer their support and ask the master plan meet your approval. MCC on behalf of Manchestrians. As stated, that's the end of the Manchester letter of support for the master plan. There is another letter here from the former real estate director of the Northside Leadership Conference, Darnell Jackson, in support of. Another letter that I am in receipt of and delivering today is a letter in support of by Virginia R. Landis, who is a Manchesterian resident living at 1321 Sheffield, and owes her life here today to AGH and its proximity to our neighborhood.
Thank you,
I can
LaShawn.
close with that and submit.
Thank you, LaShawn. Yeah, you can submit that here to the clerk. Will make copies and make sure everyone gets that on council. Thank you so much for coming to make comment. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me speak. My name is Dr. Daphne Kurgis, and I am the agency director for Project Destiny. Our main office sits right directly in the Calkirk community. On behalf of our founder and executive director, Reverend Dr. Brenda Gregg, I am conveying the support of our organization and many of our constituents that live, work, or reside within the north side of Pittsburgh related to the AGH Master Plan. Our mission is to reach out to the community, educate our youth, inspire others, grow leaders, and nurture our youth in the Pittsburgh area. Healthy and whole individuals play a pivotal role in this master plan. And this master plan is a way to forecast development and growth of a certain period of time, and it will assist us in achieving this goal. Many communities, particularly those that have vulnerable populations, do not have fortune to grow. We are on the north side, and we have a gift with a hospital that is stable and forecasting growth opportunities. We are also pleased to share that the hospital engages with the community to address things beyond healthcare and looks to partner with organizations like ours to provide resources for the social determinants of health needs that can nurture our vulnerable residents while they are affording them the ability to voice their opinions and impact their ways of living. Project Destiny, Inc. and our Thrive 18 initiative have served the needs of all 18 Northside neighborhoods, meeting the social determinant of health needs in partnership with AGH. In closing, please know that I am the director of Project Destiny, Inc., and we are in support of the AGH Master Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name's Renee Rosensteel, and I'm a Manchester resident. We are lucky to have such a great hospital within the footprint of the community. I'm here to support the AGH Master Plan. I think that a hospital that addresses the big and the small needs of the community is really important. This hospital has a heart. It's a world-class, comprehensive facility that includes a state-of-the-art cancer center that took care of the most important person in my life. I'm grateful for that. It supports more than 3,000 jobs. It's a community partner that's uplifted the neighborhood with a clean, beautiful campus, and one that has supported many community projects. It's a listening and compassionate institution that supported our most vulnerable neighbors and residents at large. I personally took a neighbor there when he was dying They didn't ask questions. They just took him to the emergency room, and they said, "We got you." It's an economic anchor for the many small businesses that surround it. And I think that this master plan is going to help it be more of a community that I want to be part of.
Thank you, Renee. Next speaker. All right. Well, if there are no further speakers, we will move to the members that have joined us. If you'd like to make a comment, I'll choose Councilperson Warwick. If you like to, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have questions per se. I will say that I do not live on the north side, but I actually am we have Highmark insurance so that I can travel across town and use your hospital. So that's, yeah. Yeah, I would be curious just on average, just with the helicopter, because I am sympathetic. I mean, the helicopter issue is obviously, so just, and you may not have these numbers, but on average, how often do helicopters come through?
Yeah, I do not have that number in front of me right now.
Okay.
We have done an assessment, and one of the commitments is that we said, regardless of what our plan is to move, is ensure we do a sound study of both current as well as future potential states.
Okay. And then I guess just the last thing, and I would be remiss to not mention it, is of course, we've been hearing a lot here and elsewhere around the city at other institutions about safe staffing levels and the need to attract nurses and other healthcare workers, not only attract them, but keep them there, and having, full-time jobs as opposed to these travel jobs. And of course, there's not much purpose in building a ton of new buildings if we don't have the staff to, safely and effectively staff them. So that is perhaps not something you can speak to here, but I just wanted to mention
make a comment that, this is a very important topic. You know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that we're mindful of, I didn't present this as a post agenda to other members.
Sure. They
may have came to also gave comments. So I just want to be respectful of, the nature of this meeting as a public hearing.
Well, I can leave that more as a statement, as not,
Yeah. I mean, we can have a little back and forth, but I just wanted to, I didn't want to get too far in the, down the road with the nature of what would be, fact finding.
Mm-hmm.
Is it okay?
Yeah. That's fine. Anyway, that's all.
I mean, if you'd like to make a comment to that, that's fine. I just wanted to.
Clearly something that we keep very serious, and I think that's a lot of the work around our workforce development, is making sure that we are creating that pipeline for all healthcare careers, not just nursing, but everything. So clearly an area of focus and making sure that we are driving towards that all the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, representing the 8th District, I have many institutions in the district I represent. So some of them do a laudable job of public outreach and engagement and ongoing engagement, and some could take some lessons, it sounds like, from AGH in terms of conducting engagement, and not just conducting engagement in the way I said it, but truly building relationships with the community and assisting communities where they need it, to the extent that they're coming out from their communities to testify on behalf of an IMP is impressive. So perhaps there can be some coming together and lessons learned and learning there for some in District 8. But I should say that some are wonderful and do a great job as well. As for specific questions, I know that you said that and I realize that in this phase, it's the massing is just like the greatest extent that you could possibly build, not exactly what you will build. But of the few comments that we did receive by email, some were concerned about height, and not just height, but I know that like the tower height is quite high, but it's skinny. So do you have a sense of what might reach that height and be, a larger mass of a building beyond that, and how that might affect shadows and other concerns that people have?
We really don't at this
Okay.
point in time. I think we obviously received many of those similar contents and comments around the impact to the houses specifically, right butting up against these, but not having necessarily full build-out programming. That obviously drives size and scope and options that we potentially have to make sure that we address those.
Great. Okay. And with regard to parking and transportation demand management, I'll say this everywhere I have the opportunity to, because it's certainly a pinch point in Oakland and in Shadyside, where I represent as well. Certainly working with DOMI on TDM plans is great, and the city has its own TDM coordinator at this point. Wonderful. It seems like another opportunity, if you haven't already, or I'll just ask the question: have you done a transportation or transit audit within your employees there?
Yes,
You
that
have.
was part of our
okay,
study
that was
here.
part
Yep.
of it. Okay, great. And I guess to the extent that there is a conversation with PRT with regard to, say an employee, a set of employees all seem to be coming from one suburb, but can there be a flyer or, an additional bus route that would be assured to be used and utilized rush hour each way? That seems like a conversation as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, just to highlight, is out of the TDM audit and survey of employees, we've put in a role of a TDM coordinator to do just that and start reaching out to public transportation and determining different paths that we may have to leverage those exact things.
Great to hear. Okay. Right. Yeah. It seems like where parking is scarce, sometimes it should be reserved for in my mind, the patients and others who are visiting, not the everyday people who can maybe find a routine they can get into on transit. So, okay. Well, great. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your efforts.
Thank you, Councilperson. Any other comments? All right, well, thank you for coming today. But first and foremost, I want to thank the speakers that came, everyone from the neighborhood, people that live around this proposed development, and everyone, all the other institutions that came, organizations, people that represent organizations that gave their comment, however, wherever they lie, in regards to this type of build out, really. I mean, and that's, what we're hearing is the concerns of residents, primarily residents that live around the property, because, I mean, it's, it's obvious to me that the public benefit that you provide, but I don't live around, directly next to the, hearing what's going on. And rightly so. I mean, people moved into a current situation. Now that situation is changing, or there always is some give and take when you're living in an urban area, living across a hospital, or any sort of major development. So I want to be mindful of their concerns and their quality of life, because I know it's just not going to end here. Obviously we see with the current helipad, I'm continually on emails of why the helicopter is idling at a certain point, and you are I would say you're very responsive as to what's happening. Most of the time it's weather related and why it has to go. But I do have a good history of the situation, understanding in the past where they worked with the community to, make sure that the flight path was, the dedicated flight path is coming down a certain way. I mean, this is where life flight started, the concept where it was, crafted. So, I know it's always difficult because you want to continue to do the good work. And so I see, obviously the cancer center was built. That was on the front end. And so that was less impactful, I think. And so this is, obviously more impactful. There's other concerns, and rightly so. They have other residents have other reasons to bring up, situations like parking and use of the grounds, and the next location of build outs, buildings, the helipad, all that. So I want to be mindful of that, and looking forward to this conversation going forward. And I know that we started opening up some of the questions, so I will work with members to see if there's appetite for a setting where we can get more questions answered. And I plan to work on with individuals that reached out and made comment today, especially that ones that are not in favor, so I can get an understanding of what they're going through currently, and how maybe we can solve some of this or put some of those concerns as much at ease as possible, because I do know what the commitment you've given to the community, but that said, just want to really be mindful of what they're going through and what they're seeing on paper here and what they're seeing on the presentation. So appreciate your time, appreciate you coming here, and I look forward to the continued partnership on the north side. And thank you to City Planning for putting this together. Thank you to the clerk. I also want to thank the members that came today, and I also want to thank the council president for allowing me to preside over this hearing, since it's ultimately up to them to designate someone. So always appreciative to talk about and handle a situation like this that's in my district. So with that, if there are no other comments from members, no?